Hello, everyone. Good day. My name is Marlon Hill. I'm a partner at the law firm of Weiss, Serota, Helfman, Cole, and Bierman, right here in Miami-Dade County. We are partners with Legal Services of Greater Miami, a nonprofit law firm that has been doing the hard work for the last 60 years right here in Miami-Dade County, serving the critical needs of families and individuals here in our beloved community. Today, we are broadcasting from the Miami Community newspapers, and we're going to dive into some of the good work that Legal Services of Greater Miami has been doing here in our local communities. I'm joined by two of their senior attorneys and rock stars that are working on issues impacting families, consumer issues, financial sustainability issues. Yesenia Arocha is here with me, and also Jose Sabatier for joining us. Welcome to the Miami Community Newspaper.
Good afternoon. Thank you so much.
How's it going out there? What's your feel of the general community that you have also come to know personally? What's the general feel in this economy? What's the sentiment that you're feeling in your practice and just generally?
Well, I personally practice in the area of family law, and unfortunately, we're seeing lots of family law cases. I think that's always the case. But we are seeing a little uptake in domestic violence issues, maybe a direct result of the financial issues that we're facing. I know Miami's housing market is a bit unique, and I think that conflates a lot of the family law issues. And in addition to that, because some family law issues are related to financials, many of our family law cases also have a consumer component, which maybe Jose can speak to a little bit.
Jose, tell me a little bit about your connection to Legal Services of Greater Miami, and in your current practice, what's the sentiment in this current economic environment that you're seeing?
Yeah, so I'm been with Legal Services since 2022 in the consumer unit. So in the umbrella of consumer law, that includes debt collection defense, homeownership preservation, foreclosure, bankruptcy, and estate planning. So if I could sum it up in one word, it would be overwhelming, right? The community is overwhelmed, whether it's with credit card bills, foreclosure looming over them, not being able to maintain their mortgage payments. I would say if I had to sum it up in one word, it would be overwhelming.
Boy, Yesenia, this type of financial stress impacting all different types of levels of our society. What are some of the legal issues that are emanating from this financial stress?
Sure. Well, obviously, the financial stress impacts all kinds of relationships, and in particular, divorces. So we are handling a lot of dissolutions, and we're assisting with child support issues as well. We're also dealing with, like I mentioned, domestic violence issues. And for the most part, that's what we're doing in the family law unit.
Money always a central issue for most of your cases. The stresses of money, lack thereof?
I would say a majority of the cases are probably stemming from financial issues. There seems to be a lot of hardship, which causes stress on the family, and it unfortunately results in dissolutions, or many times we have paternity actions that we assist with as well, where single mothers are trying to seek child support, or fathers are trying to be part of the child's lives, and for whatever reason haven't been up to now. And so we think finances play a large part in the issues that we're seeing.
Yeah. Jose, it's my view that stress doesn't always just come immediately. It's something that builds up over time, and then it becomes a crisis moment. From your view in your practice, dealing with consumer issues, I don't know if there's a right time or a wrong time to seek help, but on that spectrum, before it becomes critical, when should someone seek help?
The sooner the better, right? In the context of consumer, let's say debt collection defense or credit card debt collection defense, don't wait until you've been sued, right, for those debts. Try to reach out to the credit card company to do some sort of refinancing or some sort of repayment plan. Come to Legal Services, of course. So I would say the sooner the better.
Some people don't know that they can do that. Just pick up the phone. We're caught up in this world of WhatsApp messages and DMs and text messages and stuff. And when we can just be human and just call someone, where should they find a number and pick up the phone and call? And when they call, Jose, what should they say?
So if they're going back to that example of the credit card, if they call their creditor, the bank or whatever they got their credit card from, or that debt, they can contact like the main line, and then they should say, I am going through hardship. What options are available? How can you work with me? And as far as coming to legal services, they can reach us. Our main line is 305-576-0080. And they can go through the intake process to see at what point if we can assist them in their debt collection.
What can they expect to hear when they call and they ask for that economic hardship menu of options?
Well, it really depends. It depends on the creditor, it depends on the bank. But a lot of these companies are willing to assist, right? They understand that a lot of these clients are facing financial hardship. So maybe a lower interest rate, something as simple as that, or a lower monthly minimum payment. That can make a huge difference.
Yeah. Yesenia, I know that you're not a family counselor, you're a licensed attorney, but many times you're just dealing with folks who are, with their relationship is now irretrievably broken because of consumer debt or financial stress.
Yeah.
What advice do you have for couples that may be watching or listening right now that is going through that argument in the living room and dinner over that consumer debt or financial situation?
Well, I would second what Jose said. The earlier you seek help out, the better off you'll be. I will say that many times people hesitate to contact our office because they think that they need to have paper served or there needs to be a lawsuit in place. And what we actually do is provide consultations. And in Jose's case, it would be for consumer. In my case, it would be for family. Before making the next step, you can certainly call our offices. And Jose gave our number, which was 305-576-0080. We also welcome in-person intakes Monday through Thursday from 9 a.m. To 12 p.m., as well as the phone intakes. And so prior to taking the next step, it's good to find out what your legal options are. So your family unit is not working for whatever reasons. It could be financial or otherwise. Perhaps you're in the midst of a domestic violence issue and you want to know what your options are, what your safe options are. So we welcome your listeners to please call our offices, and if they need a consultation before taking the next step, we certainly would advise them to do so.
Yeah, and it's important to note that the consultations are free at Legal Services of Greater Miami. So Jose, you pick up the phone and you may call some of these creditors. Some of them are great at customer service, but some of them are not necessarily that nice, right? When they cross the line of abuse, what should a consumer or a resident do in that situation?
That's when they come to legal services, especially going back to the idea of this being overwhelming. Some of these creditors or some of these banks might not have options available, right? And then that's when the client falls behind, and then they could potentially be sued for falling behind on those bills. And then that's when they should definitely reach out to legal services. Don't wait until the day of the court hearing, or, the sooner the better. It all goes back to the sooner they can reach out to us, the better we can assist them.
And the more options they may have.
Absolutely.
Mm-hmm.
Yesenia, we also live in a community where not both parents are not always in the home, and there may be a single parent, there may be multiple kids, more additional stress for that, right?
Yes.
What are you seeing as it relates to single parent households, and what resources may be available out there from the federal government, county government, city government that a single parent right now is dealing with? Where should he or she go?
So we do see a lot of single mothers who perhaps were not married at the time that their children were born, and then they're needing financial assistance. One of the areas of the law that we assist with is the initiation of child support, whether that be through the court system or whether that be through administration. So that's certainly something that we can assist with. We can start child support payments so that they can make their month a little easier and have that support from, say, a biological father who doesn't have legal paternity as of yet. So we can establish paternity and start child support.
Is it as easy as saying, I need help?
It can be. It can be as easy as saying, I need help, and then figuring out what the options are, advising the client, and then having them decide which route they want to go. Yeah. But the first step is obviously needing help and saying you need help and identifying, what the issue is.
And not every relationship is perfect, and sometimes some relationships actually should be moving on to a new chapter. So when families make this decision to have this transition in the midst of financial stress, what's your advice for them during that transition period?
So first and foremost, we do handle the solutions as well as just the ending of a relationship. And sometimes children are involved. So one of the things that we prioritize during a consultation is just letting both parties know that regardless of the relationship ending, they have a responsibility to the children. And we try to outline some steps that they can take. If they're having a particularly volatile communication between the two adults, we sometimes advise them to do something simple like just text going forward, or using Family Wizard, which is an application that many judges actually many judges require them to use so that the communications are a little bit less volatile. So we can't advise them to do that. But we actually do a whole list of things in the consultation and advise them what's the best way to move forward, especially if you have children.
Jose, we all need to be empowered and to be informed, right? Whether we are under financial stress or not. If you were to have a menu of consumer bill of rights that everyone should remember and have on their refrigerator and know that I am entitled to 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. What are some of those consumer bill of rights things that we to protect ourselves?
So in the context of debt collection defense, there are certain types of income that are protected, right? So Social Security benefits, veterans benefits, workers' compensation. If you are a consumer receiving those types of benefits and you're sued and they try to garnish you, for example, those types of income are protected.
Okay.
In the realm of home ownership, in Florida, we have homestead rights. So even if you are facing debt collection defense, and this comes up with a lot of clients, your homestead property is protected from the sale of creditors. So just for clients and people in the community to understand that even if they are facing debt collection or other types of debt, there are protections available. For example, single parents or parents that provide more than half of the economic support for a dependent or child, there's the head of family protection from garnishment. So there are many protections and many exemptions from garnishment and from debt collection. So it would be important. It's very important for listeners in the community to know that those protections are in place and they do exist.
Without having an advocate like you at Legal Services of Greater Miami, where does the general public go to just understand that they have these rights, or where can they go just to kind of really refresh the information and the resources? Are there resources outside of Legal Services of Greater Miami that they can tap into?
Well, actually, the first one that comes to mind is our website, funny enough.
I would agree with that.
Right. We have
legalservicesmiami.org.
Correct.
Yeah.
We have an entire Get Help section and self-help. We have a subject called self-help, and we have a lot of resources, a lot of materials, a lot of brochures that walk you through these processes. And they're titled like, "What do I do if I'm being sued for a credit card debt, etc." And they can see those and see what options and what resources are available to them.
So let's say you have a client, Jose, that is informed. They go to the legalservicesmiami.org. They are on top of getting help. What does a rockstar consumer, financially stressed client look like to you guys that's doing all the right things to present their case, get through this challenging period? What are some of the things that these clients are doing that's making your work as advocates easier? Yesenia, what would you say to that?
Well, I would say documentation, making
Absolutely.
sure that you provide the documents that are necessary in order for us to provide the defenses so that you can come out a rock star. But it's really important to be able to review everything during a consultation. So if you're going to be meeting with us, it's important that we have the documents that we need in order to properly advise you.
Give me an example of the list of those priority things that clients many times are not paying attention, but they should have in place or always have in place.
So, for example, in order to seek a dissolution of marriage, many clients will need to get their certificate of marriage. And so we can advise them on how they can go about doing that. Sometimes they don't have that available.
Clerk's office, yeah.
Or the Department of Health, or vital statistics. In addition to that, just providing us with the financials for the last 3 years. So tax returns for the last 3 years, W-2 forms, especially if there are children involved and we're talking about something like child support, we're going to have to see the financials. And it's actually, they are mandatory disclosures by Florida statute. So we have to exchange mandatory disclosures. So making sure that you have all that documentation for the consultation and to go forward with the case is really important.
What about in the consumer debt protection scenario, Jose?
I would echo what Yesenia said. So, for example, I'll use bankruptcy as an example, right? In order to file a bankruptcy, we need our clients at least 4 years of tax returns. We need 12 months worth of bank statements, pay stubs from their job. So there's a lot of documents that you need in order to proceed with litigation or proceed with a case. And it makes our job so much easier when a client has all of that documentation with them or is able to produce that documentation quickly.
Great point. There's not an hour that goes by that I don't get a text of someone saying that I need to pay this ticket or I need to take on this credit line or I have a red light camera, or they're calling me constantly every hour. These scams and phishing exercises, Jose, are out there. And I can't imagine for someone who's already under financial stress or vulnerable, what can we do to kind of protect ourselves against these scams and phishing exercises that are out there? What would you say?
Well, I would say be cognizant of what you're signing, what you're clicking on, right? You'd be surprised how many of our clients come to us for...
Don't sign and don't click.
Absolutely. You'd be surprised how many of our clients come for deed fraud, for example, where they think they're signing one thing and what they're really doing is giving away title to their home. In the context of consumer, you'd be surprised how many of our clients come to us with ID fraud issues, where someone, it could even be someone close to them, has taken out a credit card in their name, and then they stop paying on it, and then our client gets sued. So be cognizant of what you're signing. And I would say also check your credit report. Your credit report tells you all the debts.
How does someone do that?
You can go annualcreditreport.com.
Annualcreditreport.com.
Yeah.
You go there and you enter what information?
It asks you for your basic information, name, address, social security, and then you can run the 3 main credit bureaus, TransUnion, Equifax, and Experian, and you can get your credit report. And a lot of our clients are able to see that they have been the victim of fraud or some sort of identity theft because they see credit lines on there that are not theirs.
How often should we do that?
At least, I would say at least once a year, if not twice a year.
And then when you get your credit report, you are someone who probably surgically sees these things frequently. What is the consumer looking for? What should they be looking for?
Those credit lines, right? If you've never, for example, taken out a credit card from Home Depot, and there it is, there's a credit line from Home Depot with a balance of $2,000, $3,000, and you know that that's not yours, right? And so that's when they can file a dispute with the credit bureaus to dispute that credit line.
Yeah. Interesting. So Yesenia, clients are coming to you, consultation, they're under financial stress, they end up at the family court downtown. What can they do when they are in this unfamiliar place before a judge, this courtroom scenario? What's your advice to kind of get them through? Financial stress is already stressful already. Now they're going through the legal transition of a case. What advice do you have to prepare them for going through this period? How can they even make it a little less challenging? Or what are the judges also looking for?
Sure. So I will say since COVID, I think a lot of our hearings have transitioned to Zoom.
Okay.
And I think that's really helpful, especially in the realm of domestic violence. I would say prior to COVID, a lot of the issues that we had with domestic violence survivors was that they did not want to face the respondent. So now with hearings available via Zoom, it makes it so much easier to go forward and tell your story and make those allegations. But to your question, what would make it easier? Knowledge is power.
Yeah.
So we try to inform the client step by step what it is they are to expect. We provide them with an interpreter if that's necessary. we let them know, what exactly the judge is going to be doing. First, you're going to be sworn in. First, you're going to go up, or the other party is going to go up. So that way they have as many questions answered beforehand, and it reduces their anxiety. And we also provide assistance with any kind of tech. So if they don't have a computer, for example, we allow them to come to our office and they can use the Zoom at our office. But knowledge is power, and knowing more obviously helps reduce that anxiety.
With every family transition, there may be young people involved. Advice for teenagers or older kids who are seeing their parents go through this financial stress, they may be able to contribute to this transition. What would be your advice to them?
To older children?
Yeah.
And that's always difficult to answer, right? It's a gray area. I never think it's a child's responsibility to mediate between the two adults.
I wouldn't say in a mediator role, but the family is clearly under a financially stressful situation that's impacting everyone. And I believe that each person within their age and capacity has the ability to do something. To contribute.
Yeah.
What would that be?
Yeah. A lot of our clients, most of the household, if they're older children, they do work as well. Yeah. And so they can fall victim very easily, as do elders, to financial issues and consumer fraud. So they can be signing credit cards maybe they shouldn't be signing, or opening lines of credit that maybe they're not fully aware of. So yeah, just be cautious. And obviously a lot of our families do have every person in the household working and contributing. So it's important that teenage children make the right decisions so that they don't have an issue later on in life with their credit, because credit affects every facet of your life. It affects housing, it affects schooling. So just be cautious.
Yeah.
Yeah.
How about the consumer debt protection lawsuit cycle? Jose, what can people expect? Are there also many of them many times on Zoom? Are they in person? Give us some insight as to what can someone expect when they're faced with trying to resolve a debt or consumer financially stressful situation.
Yeah, so similarly, a lot of the debt collection cases are via Zoom, but they are also in person. If you're sued in what's called small claims court, meaning for $8,000 or less, you have to go to what's called a pre-trial conference. And a lot of times I've seen them being more in person now. But going back to something Yesenia said, knowledge is power, right? So we equip our clients with the knowledge of what to expect at these hearings. Something as simple as when the judge comes out, refer to them as Your Honor, etc. But that's an example. The pretrial conference is something that takes place after they've been notified of the lawsuit, and that's an opportunity for them and the creditor to work something out. And then after the pretrial conference, there might be a mediation, etc. So overall, the debt collection process can take a couple of months in between, between hearings and between mediation, etc. From beginning to end, it could take a couple of months with a lot of different court hearings. Yeah.
And for these Zoom hearings, any advice for residents, consumers, families when they are presenting themselves, conducting themselves on Zoom that would be effective advice?
Absolutely. So you're going to treat the Zoom hearing as if you're in court. Make sure you dress accordingly.
Right.
Make sure you address the judge as Your Honor. Make sure you're not interrupting the other party. Make sure you're waiting your turn to speak. Just pretend like you're in court, because the judge is treating it that way. And there's nothing that will annoy a judge faster than if you're interrupting. So make sure you don't interrupt he or she.
Right.
Anything else you want to add, Jose, after that?
In the Zoom world, especially, making sure you're in a quiet place, nothing going on in the background, that would also annoy judges. And like Yesenia said, just treat it as if you were in person, right? How would you dress going to court in person? Same way you should dress over Zoom. It's still a hearing. You're still in court. You're still before a judge.
Yeah. Very, very interesting. So I know that, we are a nonprofit law firm, Legal Services of Greater Miami. We don't advocate for policy and laws, and the policymakers are going to do their thing. And the economy is going to be impacted anyway, right? Good, bad, or indifferent. So if things get worse than it is now, or they're where they are, what's your advice for people just in a bad economy? Things are financially stressful. There are things that we can't control. Policymaker, the laws, whatever the Federal Reserve does with interest rate, those things we can't control. But what are some of the things that consumers can control that would help for a more productive relationship with legal services of Greater Miami? What would you say to that, Jose?
So it goes back to the idea of not letting it get to the point of, you're being sued, et cetera, especially within the context of debt collection, or even the context of foreclosures, right? In the context of mortgage, falling behind on your mortgage payments. Not letting it get to the point of a lawsuit before you come seek our help.
So you get the letter and it's reminding you of the late payment. You get it in the mail first month.
Mm-hmm.
You get it in the mail the second month.
Right.
What are you saying to that person when they're opening the mail and they're putting it aside?
Similar to the credit card example that I gave earlier, if you're behind on your mortgage, reach out to the mortgage servicer. They might have options for you. There are hardship options. During COVID, there was a forbearance period. Just keep using that as an example. So, just for the listeners out there to know that there are options. You don't have to let it get to the point of a lawsuit or a foreclosure or a credit card debt lawsuit before you can seek help.
Yeah. And I would add to that, just knowing your right.
Yeah.
Jose and I actually run a small claims clinic every month. And many of the cases that we see...
Small claims clinic with Legal Services of Greater Miami?
Correct.
Is it virtual or is it in person?
It's in person. And what we do is we have pro bono attorneys in the community come and they help pro se litigants.
When do you have that?
We have it the second Thursday of every month.
What time and where?
We have it at our offices from 5 to 8. But obviously, you would need to call and be pre-screened and make sure that you're eligible. However, we run our clinics every month, and most of the cases are return of security deposits. So it's important to know your rights. What are your rights in regards to when you should have a security deposit returned? How long do you have to wait to seek it? Should you send out a demand letter? So just knowing your rights in this economy is,
Right. And that information, I would presume, is at your Get Help link at Legal Services Miami.
That's correct.
.org. For the listeners here, they're going to contact Legal Services of Greater Legal Services Miami.org. When they call, when can they call by phone and when can they come in person?
So in person is Monday and Wednesday from 9 to 12. And they can call Monday through Thursday from 1:30 to 4 p.m.
Excellent. And when they are preparing to come to your offices, Jose, or they're calling, what should they have ready that's prepared and helps you to be a better advocate?
As much as possible, right? So in the context of mortgage foreclosure, their most recent statements, right? Or a reinstatement letter from the mortgage servicer. In the realm of debt collection, if they've been sued for a pretrial conference, bring that hearing notice so that we know when that hearing is, et cetera. In the context of our clinic that we do on security deposits, the lease, right? So as much documentation as they can provide come with that, and that'll make our job much easier, and we'll be able to best assist them.
The family law context?
Same issue. If you've received a notice, if you've been served, you want to go ahead and bring those documents in. Any child support notices that you've received, any pictures or documentation for domestic violence issues, any text messages that you think were threatening in any way or provide evidence for the domestic violence, as much information as possible.
Well, listen, we want to thank Yesenia Arocha from Legal Services of Greater Miami for being here, and Jose Sabatier. Jose handles the consumer debt protection issues there at the offices at 4343 West Flagler in the heart of Miami, easily accessible by public transportation. And Yesenia Arocha, one of the senior attorneys there handling family law issues. We want to make sure that you get all your documentations in order before you call for a free consultation. It doesn't cost you anything, courtesy of the support from our federal government, state government, or county government, and the public. Legal Services of Greater Miami is able to provide these services for you. The phone number again is 305-576-0080, 1:30 to 4 p.m., Mondays through Fridays. You can call, but only in persons, Mondays and Wednesdays, 9 a.m. to 12 noon. But please visit the website at legalservicesmiami.org. Go to the Get Help link, and you can get all the information that you need to know about handling the family transition that you're going through, or managing the financially stressful information situation that you may also be ongoing as well. Thank you for joining us here at the program at Miami Community Newspapers.